everyone, it's May. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am a third year at Cal State Long Beach studying creative writing, and I just wanted to make a video all about creativity. I was originally going to attach this to one of my book writing episodes, but then I decided that it would be better off as its own thing. I just think that there's like a lot to talk about when it comes to creativity, and I'm also going to do kind of like a mini review of Elizabeth Gilbert's book called Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear, because that's kind of what inspired this whole thing. It's going to kind of jump around a little bit. I'm just going to start with talking about her book. If you haven't heard of Elizabeth Gilbert, she's the author of Eat, Pray, Love, which I haven't read, but the thing that got me onto this book actually is because when I started listening to podcasts, I found the podcast that was by her. It's called Big Magic, and if you're like struggling with like inspiration or creativity, you can like write to her and apply to be on the podcast, and then there's like an episode where she'll like talk through like whatever struggles people are having with them, like on the phone, and then she'll call in an expert that she knows like in their field, whatever it is, like photography, like writing, whatever, and then they'll like give their advice on it, and it's really, really good. And so I was like, I'm gonna read her book because this just seems like really cool and I want to see like what inspired this whole podcast. So I got the audiobook, and yeah, I really, really liked it. I found it to be very helpful. I didn't agree with everything. It was a little bit too like magical for me. Like some of the stuff she said, I was like, I don't know about that, but you know, that's fine. Like I don't usually like love everything about a book, but overall I really, really liked it. I liked a lot of the messages that she had, and it was mostly about writing, but it was about creativity in general, but just because she's a writer, like most of the stories and experiences were about writing. I'm just gonna kind of go like with some of the points about the book and then just talk about like what I thought about it. Toward the beginning, she talks about inspiration as like an outside force that visits people, and at first I was like, okay, this sounds stupid, but like it kind of makes sense. He says that like inspiration visits you and then you get an idea, and the inspiration's like, okay, or maybe she said ideas visit you, but whatever, like same idea. Like, are we gonna do this? And you have to say yes or no, and sometimes it's not a good time, you have to say no, and then it'll move on to someone else. But if you say yes, then you commit and you do whatever the creative project is. And I just thought that sounded like really cool, and I definitely know what that feels like when you get an idea, like that's so exciting. I think my personal problem is I always say yes. Like, I hardly ever say no. I say yes to way too many things, even when I shouldn't, and then I don't ever finish anything, and I get bored, and then I do something else when the next idea comes along. I'm like, ooh, that sounds better. My problem is that I have like no discipline. We're gonna try to work on that. I'm gonna talk about this in my book writing episode. I really did finish a first draft of a book, but now I've reworked stuff and it's like not complete anymore. I have to like add stuff and take stuff out, so like I don't feel like it's a complete, like there was a complete draft one, but like now it's not. Anyway, whatever. So I'm really gonna try not to start a new book next semester, because I basically started a new book every semester of college, which is not good. Like literally every semester of college I've started a new book, and we're gonna try to not do that next time, because I already have a book started about someone studying abroad in France, so if I get ideas I should just put it in that one, you know what I mean? Yeah, but when she talks about like people not having inspiration at all, or like being unable to get like how to start a project and like not having ideas for it, like I literally cannot relate to that, unless it's like a school essay, but that's not creative, that's boring. I've never been in a place where I'm like, I want to write a book but I don't know what to write about, like literally never. I guess I can kind of relate to that for short stories, but the ideas have always come to me like eventually. Like I really haven't struggled that much. I thought that I would when I was taking the short story classes, because I was like, oh, I've never written a short story, I only write long things, how are you supposed to condense it? But it actually like wasn't that hard for me to get ideas. It was hard to condense it because I'd get an idea and then write like 25 pages and it was supposed to be 15, and I'd be like, whoops. So that ended up being the hard part. And then I just kind of took this away from it, and it kind of relates to that, like inspiration versus discipline. Like sometimes there will be moments in creating where it's like pure creation, like pure inspiration, when you almost feel like what you're writing is like writing itself. And I also I rarely experience this with dance, but like that one time when I got an idea to choreograph a Diamond Heart, like it was like totally taking shape and I like couldn't stop working on it. Those moments are so amazing, but it's never for anyone is it going to be like that all the time. Like, you have to fill in the rest of the gaps with discipline, and there are going to be scenes that you don't want to write, and you're just going to have to write them anyway, even though it's like line by line, like trudging through mud. Like, that's the hard part of writing. And then I just kind of wanted to go over my tips for like when you feel like you're lacking inspiration, and some of these are kind of from her book, and some of them are just things I use. I really don't know what to tell you. I don't know, like if you're really struggling to come up with an idea for a book or a short story, I don't know, like just think about what you're interested in, I guess. That's what she talks about in her book. Think about your interests, like delve into things you're interested more, and like an idea will come to you. And like I would just look to your own life for experiences, like think about like important moments in your life, or like your memories that have like really shaped who you are, and like maybe something will come out of that, I don't know. Or like struggles that you've gone through, like you could maybe like adapt that into fiction. My ideas for more like once you've started something and then you're like stuck in the middle of a scene, or like trying to write a scene and you don't know what to write. So I would say if you're in the middle of a scene, what I usually do is read it out loud like a goofball. Like actually read the dialogue like with inflection, like really try to read it so that you can try to like get into your characters' minds and like actually hear what it would sound like, especially if it's a dialogue scene, to figure out like what comes next. I find that that really helps me. Or just if you can't read it aloud, just like read it in your head and really try to picture what's going on and like try to see what would happen next. And if trying to sit there and write really isn't working, then I would do something else. I know for me, I always get inspiration from music and movies, so I always make playlists for my books, as you guys know. I would put that on and like do cleaning or something else that I needed to do, or like watch a movie, just take a break and do something else, and maybe something will hit you when you're not even expecting it. Like that literally worked for me earlier in break when I was trying to write a scene and I was like, I really just, don't know what to do with this. I listened to my playlist for that book, and like a song that I had heard a million times, I like suddenly was seeing it and I was like, oh, I know what I'm gonna do now, and an idea came to me, you know? And then Elizabeth Gilbert in her book says to like always make sure your space is clean and to make sure you are clean, because you want to like make inspiration attracted to you or something. It was kind of funny, but yeah, I think that that helps as well. And sometimes getting like a change of setting, like going somewhere else to try to write if you've been like in the same place and nothing's coming to you, or if you have writer friends to talk to them about your struggles. I know that sometimes I do that with Jillian. One thing she talked about that I thought was kind of funny was that a lot of people have like the fantasy of having uninterrupted time to write, like just like a summer where you can go somewhere or, you know, work on whatever their creative thing of choice is and like work uninterrupted. You don't have to do any chores, you don't have work, whatever. And I have dreamed about that so much too, like having no responsibilities, just like being in a cabin somewhere where I have no choice but to write. But the thing is that it just isn't realistic. And she didn't say this in her book. She said like basically what she said about this is like that's not realistic for most people, like that's not going to happen. You have to like make time in your life. Like everyone has the same amount of time in a day. If you really care about it, like you'll make time for it. But for me, like I personally know that uninterrupted time wouldn't work. The times when I write the best are when I'm busy, like during finals. Like literally, the more things I have to do, the more I want to write. Like if I have structure, like work or school, I'll work around that and find time to write. But if I have uninterrupted time, I won't, and I'll be lazy and I'll just like watch movies and like go on my phone. So that's me. Maybe some people really would do well with uninterrupted time, but I think few people have ever actually done that. I really liked what she said about how the standards for what good creative work is are arbitrary. Like if you're a mathematician or a scientist or something, like you obviously know whether you did it right or not, but with writing and with art of any kind, yes, we have conventions about like what's good, but it's really just like manufactured. She posted on her Instagram the other day, I follow her on Instagram. I had hardly begun to read. I asked, how can you ever be sure that what you write is really any good at all? And he said, you can't. You can never be sure you die without knowing whether anything you wrote is any good. If you have to be sure, don't write. Like basically one of the big messages of her book is like you shouldn't write like for other people's approval or for it to be good. You should just write because you like it and it's like engaging with creativity, and that's something that's really special. And I really took that away as like something that was, I hadn't really thought about that before, because I worry so much about what other people think about my writing and like worrying about if it's like good. And obviously like you want to make it something that's enjoyable to read, but like you get the point. And she basically said that like even if we never get published or if we never get anywhere with our work, like that doesn't mean it wasn't worth it, because if you enjoy doing it and enjoy engaging with creativity, the alternative would be to not do that, basically. You're either engaging with creativity or you're not, and maybe it'll get somewhere and maybe it won't, but like you enjoy doing it, basically. And I just, yeah, I really like that, because the alternative would be to like not write or not be creative, and that's sad. Like, I don't want to live a life like that. For a while I kind of had this all or nothing mindset where it was like, I want to be a writer, and like if I don't get all my books published and get like really famous, then it's like not worth it, and like that's it, like that's my dream, and if I don't get that, my life's gonna suck and I'm just gonna be like working some job I hate. And it's like, that's not true at all. That's like totally an all or nothing mindset. And like she was talking about how she had a second job for so long, and it was only when she like really made it big that she just did writing, and there were so many other struggles that came with that, because you're gonna have to work with publishers you don't like and editors you don't like, and some people aren't gonna share your opinions on your book. So even if you do make it to that point, there are going to be issues. And I know the issue for me would be having writing be the only thing I have to do, because I don't work well with that, and that's fine. So I think that having another job and writing is going to be what I end up doing for sure. And I had never thought of it that way before. I was like, ooh, like having a day job or like having another job, like, ugh, I don't want to do that. But now my views have changed. So anyway, yeah, the only thing, I guess I just haven't gotten like enlightened enough, or like to this point, but she was talking about like, don't take it so seriously. People say that their work is their baby, but you're never going to put it out there if you think of it like that. Like, it's not a big deal. If you write a whole book and it doesn't work, move on. And like, I can't do that. Like, I'm so attached to the stories that I write, and I care so much about them. That's why I care so much if someone were to say like, ooh, if this is stupid or I don't like this, that would hurt me so much, because like I feel like writing is like my escape from life, basically. And I love these stories that I've created. And so like if someone were to like bash them, I'd be like, I don't like it anymore either, because that's all I'd be able to hear when I was writing it, I feel like. I don't know. I'm not to that point yet. I do feel like my stories are my babies, so. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. If you guys want to check out her book, I would highly recommend it. Once again, it's called Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert, and the podcast is called Big Magic. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Bye!